シャキシャキシャキ、シェイクシェイクシェイク、ゴーゴーダンス、半回転。
I feel wrong watching this. So Crash 1 was pretty good, right? Sales didn't take off immediately, but rose exponentially as time moved on, leading us to its ever-popular sequel,
Crash Bandicoot 2. Cortex Strikes Back.
It's no secret that it's often considered the pinnacle of the Crash series. It's Daddy's favorite.
Crash 2 was probably, for me, the best of the Crash games.
Okay.
It was... You could debate this.
It just seemed to outdo our lovely couple's firstborn in every which way.
Crash 1 was horribly balanced.
Right.
The way that the save games worked, brutal. The way that the extra lives worked, brutal. And some of the levels were just... Crash 2 got all of that correct. It got all the balance right. And it also was tight.
Crash 2 is the Crash game where I find it the most difficult to lock in my opinion on. On one hand, it's hard to ignore everything that it would introduce to the series that would stick. New characters, locations, gameplay elements, a more jokey tone. And on the other hand, I can't overlook how safe of a sequel that it is. Not to say that there aren't some wild decisions here, but I feel like the highs could have been higher. My hands are up, you got me. Crash 2 is my least favorite of the original trilogy, but I also think it is the least bad. I know, Crash 2 is still a banger. There is nothing wrong with improving upon what is already there. It's safe, it's sturdy, it has a carbon monoxide detector, the foundation is really solid, and it's a beautiful home on top of that. It doesn't look it, but this game came out in 1997, a time when titles like this were struggling just to make fire. Old Orange Boy's out here making it look easy. If anything, Crash 2 communicates what the Crash series is better than the first game, but I feel like it loses a bit of its own identity in that process. So why do you feel all these things, Shanmania? What did Crash 2 do to you? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's just take the next 54 minutes to answer that.
Crystals. Of course.
In addition, we'll be doing a full-scale analysis, loosely following the progression of the game. Similar to how we did the first game, I'm going to start with story and design, then talk about core gameplay, and finish with completionist / 100% objectives. And again, focusing mostly on the PlayStation 1 original, but occasionally I'll touch on the Insane version when it seems relevant. You got all that? Great. Let's rewind in our mind back to when we first beat Crash 1, not for 100%, but when we barely eked by and got the bad ending. The story of Crash 2 takes place 1 year after the events of Crash 1. Our antagonist, Dr. Neocortex, managed to survive the fall from his blimp and has been very busy constructing his new space station, the Cortex Vortex, which wasn't that the name of the thing in the first game? We don't know exactly what it does at the moment, but you can probably take a guess. We do know, thanks to Cortex's new toady, Dr. Engine, that it needs 25 more crystals to reach full power.
How do you expect to retrieve them when we don't have any Earthbound operatives left?
You fool! Do you think I'm unaware of the situation? If we don't have any friends left on the surface, then we need to find an enemy.
I love that shot. This scene was presented, directed, and voiced better than anything that was out on the PlayStation at the time. And I really hate to start bashing the Insane trilogy so early, but they have Cortex moving around way too much in this scene. I love in the original, he doesn't even look at Engine. He's so evil and uncaring. Insane, everybody's just flailing around because we gotta have movement on screen. It's fine, it is a nitpick. This is only one of like 3 real cutscenes in the game. After, we're reintroduced to Crash and sent on an errand by his sister Coco to fetch a laptop battery. Coco's new. I'm sure you can guess who she replaced and why, unless you live in Japan. She is just kind of dropped in without explanation, but I really like Coco. Her presence is pretty sparse in this game. She's not following you around like Tails does, but you get the impression that she fills in for Crash's weaknesses in his everyday life, mostly by evidence of her ability to speak and use a laptop.
Make yourself useful, big brother, and bring an extra battery for me.
So Crash heads off into the woods looking for, I assume, a Radio Shack, and just when you're starting to know how differently he controls, bam, abducted by teleportation. Don't you hate that?
I apologize for the crude means used to bring you here, but I rather expect a written invitation would have been turned down.
Oh, that line's great. As you'd expect, Clancy Brown does a fantastic job voicing Cortex, giving him a much more level-headed and methodical tone than Brendan O'Brien previously did. And if you're playing Insane, you'll have the current voice of Cortex, Lex Lang, who's been voicing him since 2004.
Throw me over there. Trust me.
He's my personal favorite Cortex voice actor, but it's pretty obvious that he was given the direction to sound like the Clancy Brown performance in the Insane version, which he does a fine job, but it doesn't play to his strengths, in my opinion.
The crystals look like this. Bring me the crystals, Crash. That is all I will say for now.
Maybe it's more so the evolution of the character, but I love what Lex would do with Cortex after, or before.
Keep back, you weak-minded fool. Avert your gaze or you'll go crystal crazy.
And now I want to play to insanity. Backing up to Cortex's hologram head, he is effectively recruiting Crash to collect exactly what he needs.
During the course of my intellectual pursuits, I have stumbled across a force that threatens to destroy the world. Crystals are the only means of containing it. The fate of the world is at stake. It is imperative, therefore, that you bring them to me.
Right.
We know, they know, she knows, everybody knows that doing what Cortex says is a bad idea. But this is what we spend the rest of the game doing. And it kind of bugged me as a kid because I knew that we were helping the villain progress. 20 years later, I'm much more forgiving. It is just the game's tongue-in-cheek nature. Crash doesn't know because, well, Crash is dumb. For Sonic fans, you might see the similarity to Knuckles in Sonic 3 and Knuckles and Sonic Adventure 1, but Knuckles is more reactionary in those games, even the 16-bit one. Crash almost feels a little too player insert silent protag Link here. I know he can't talk, but I would have taken one more facial expression somewhere in the beginning that says like, hey, didn't you try to murder me a year ago? And wouldn't it make more sense not to have Cortex laughing at you on the game over screen? I'll give him this. It's a fun, creative premise that it was probably their last chance to do. Fool me once, fool me twice, right? You also have Coco, who spends the remainder of the game calling you via hologram trying to warn you. And you know, Coco's smart for reasons listed earlier, but she's new around here and probably has only heard of Cortex through Crash, which I mean, yeah, she probably doesn't know Cortex at all.
Trusting Cortex seems a little unwise. Crash, I can't keep the data path open this longer. Crash!
Oh yeah, and these warp rooms get like the worst service imaginable. Or maybe the line is just so busy because everybody seems to have your phone number, including Dr. Nitrous Brio from the first game.
If the fate of the world is truly your concern, you must gather the gems, not the crystals.
According to the manual, he was double-crossed by Cortex and wants the gems to power this space laser to destroy the Cortex Vortex. Now, this might seem like a Black Arms vs. Gun situation. I'm sorry, GUN. As in, you get to choose what to collect and who to help, but it's not like that at all. You have to collect 5 crystals per warp room to progress. And if you collect 0 gems, you will not see Brio at all. Cortex will name-drop him near the end.
Crash, I have discovered that the opposition is being masterminded by Dr. Nitrous Brio, the inventor of the Evolvo Ray.
Okay, I was about to flip a tit that they renamed the Cortex Vortex from the first game to Evolvo Ray, but if you'll remember from that cutscene in the first game, there are actually 2 machines, so this is the Evolvo Ray and this is the Cortex Vortex, which shares the name with this game's space station. Okay, go on, Cortex.
Brio was responsible for our misunderstandings in the past. He forced me to assist him in his plot for world domination, and he's at it again.
Not that Cortex needed it, but it gives his story a little bit more plausibility. It would have been better to get this information at the end of the first or second warp room rather than end of the fourth, but whatever, it's a PlayStation game.
Crystals are the only means of containing it. The fate of the world is at stake. It is imperative, therefore, that you bring them to me.
Let's talk about the crystals themselves a bit. This is new iconography for the Crash series that would appear in several more games. I seriously wonder if they were a response to Mario 64's Collectathon nature and the Power Stars there. Like, Crash 1 you had boxes and keys, but, you know, Zelda kind of has the key thing, and boxes aren't really that exciting. It had gems, but those were more, like, extracurricular. Every single level has 1 crystal, usually somewhere in the middle of it, that Crash must manually collect. And it's not like Crash level levels have had a huge facelift since Crash 1. Like, it's not open world now, these are still hallways for the most part. And the crystals aren't hidden. If anything, they're impossible to miss. But you can miss them.
No, Crash. I said bring me the crystals! Now, get back in there.
You heard him right. If you miss the crystal, you have to redo the level. And if you continue to miss the first one, Cortex will keep pestering you.
No, Crash. To save the world, I need crystals. Crystals! One more time. They look like this.
It's such a great attention to detail. And from a more practical perspective, it helped the 4 people that missed the giant pink crystal in their path.
Look above the doorways. Above each, there is a big crystal-shaped slot.
He does eventually stop. Now, a few times, Naughty Dog makes the baffling choice of putting the crystal on a split path. Yes, they're back. Most of the time, these paths are linked to other objectives in the level, and we'll talk about them later. There's no Sunset Vista or Great Gate marathon length stages. You can beat all these pretty fast, but it's the principle of doing something that I have already completed. Like, why not just put it at the very end every single time? To play devil's advocate, like, there is something nice about them being tangible. It does feel good to actually collide with them, and it makes the sound. You have to admit, Mario 64 would feel different if you didn't have that little celebratory jingle after you grab the Power Star off of King Bob-omb's corpse. In Crash's case, it just sucks because there's the possibility that you might do all of the work and not get the reward.
Another thing we're proud of is the sheer number of polygons we muscle through the Crash engine. Just a real lot of detail on the screen.
It is apparent that Crash 2 is technically superior to the original. For one, the camera is a lot more dynamic, acting as the liaison to the game's spiced up polygonal worlds. And there's a whole new suite of special effects, from holograms, jetpack exhaust, and reflections on ice. Don't ask me why that's impressive. Something about double rendering, but it must be something if Final Fantasy VII Remake is too scared to do it.
Crash 1's engine was thrown out. Crash 2's engine is totally new. It allows us to have more polygons in the background, more frames of animation in Crash, more detailed environments, and the ability to do neat environmental effect things that bring the viewer in, bring the player in, and make them feel like they're in a real environment. It has procedural rain, which is actual 3D raindrops that go on a snow level. When you're running into the snow comes at you and makes you feel like you're in the level.
Numbers and things you're only going to see if you have a magnifying glass are great, but how does it translate into the overall experience? To put it simply, Crash 2 feels much less subdued than the first game. The animation is snappier, the colors brighter, and music bouncier. Crash 1's world always felt a little dystopian. There was no real sign of modern civilization apart from Cortex's castle, and as much as a game like this could be, it felt grounded in a loose sort of science fiction, Dr. Moreau-esque. Now, the Warthog writing and TNT boxes everywhere, I'm not sure you can pin that down with any kind of science or reason, but the fact that there was like a giant nuclear waste deposit at the bottom of Cortex Island always felt right. The rustic labs of Cortex Island have been swapped out for these shiny Death Star space station levels, just adding to the pile of Star Wars references the game's already made with the holograms in the title. Not to mention, Crash is no longer attacking the native wildlife or indigenous people. Most of the animals have been roboticized, and all the humans look like Nazi scientists, so you can kill with no shame. This new world is much more in line with Crash's character. It's still in the general orbit of reality, it's just the 90s extreme dial has been upped a few notches. Right from the title screen, there's like a Christmas morning excitement. You slap in the disc, first thing you see is Crash in space in a jetpack with 3D word art flying out at you, and the track, served to us by the returning Josh Mansell, is so good. One of the best in the series.
Well, there was definitely a concerted effort to like just sort of bump it up and say like, okay, this is a thing, it's a popular game now, and so let's like really like get excited about it.
The soundtrack has seen an increase in funk, and the main theme really exemplifies that.
I think the hidden influence on that one was probably some sort of Austin Powers thing. I mean, it's my favorite theme from all the games too, if that matters.
Of course it matters, Josh. We take Crash opinions very seriously here. The soundtrack this time around feels a lot fuller, a little bit more video gamey, still very percussion heavy, but there's less of a focus on ambiance. Listen to how much more menacing and layered the Boulder track is this time around. the nature tracks have a much more discernible melody. And the sewer tracks still sound like the sewers, but wow, do they go hard. That is how you do sewer level music, Frogger, for PS1. Not just actually put in a bunch of fart sounds, even though the rest of that soundtrack is so good. And just to throw out some other tracks I really like, the Jet Board, the Jet Pack, Tiny Tiger, and of course the Warp Room music. I think the music is the only part of the Warp Rooms that I actually enjoy. These replace the Super Mario World-esque level select that Crash 1 had. The most apparent benefit is you can now choose the order at which you tackle each batch of levels. Yeah, like that. And that's fine. I usually just go from left to right anyway. It took me until this very playthrough to realize, but I just find these so extremely bland. They feel isolated, they look the same, people call me in the same fashion.
Crash.
Crash!
Crash, my boy.
It feels like Crash is being contained in this sterile environment while more exciting things are happening on the Cortex Vortex, which we never actually get to go to. And you might say, oh no, wait, the space levels are on the Cortex Vortex. If that's true, then why does Cortex need us to go grab crystals on his own property? Oh, well, his face is right there, so I don't know. And why can't Cortex just warp us right to the crystal every single time and not like a mile away? Yeah, just don't think about it too hard. Now, I am nitpicking, and it's only because I hold Crash games up to a very high standard. The point is, a lot of the ideas around the Warp Room make the adventure as a whole feel less organic. What the Warp Rooms actually amount to are 6 small identical airport terminals, which are all painted differently, but the overall theme has very little to do with the levels there or that room's boss. Warp Room 3 is sewer themed, but only has one sewer level, and you fight Tiny Tiger there in space. There is no visual progression. Like, sure, things start getting more spacey at the end, but from a narrative perspective, it is very random. If you're more worried about getting visually fatigued, you probably don't mind this. I don't think I'd be too crazy about playing all 3 of those snow levels in a row. But with this approach, you lose any sense of theming. You do get that Chex Mix variety first go around, but when it's all said and done, the experience does feel all very blended together.
To get to the next warp room, use the platform that appears in the center of the room. Good luck.
Let's talk about the level variety in Crash 2. There's 11 types spread across the total 27. Those 11 being Woods, Ice, Jet Ski, Chase, Bear Ride, Sewer, Ruins, Dig, Space, Jetpack, and Firefly. 5 of those having 3 levels in that category. Now, depending on how you look at it, you could argue that Crash 1 has more variety. First, look at how Crash 2 is organized. It's very neat. 5 levels to a warp room, each with a boss at the end. And with them all laid out, it's pretty easy to tell which ones share assets. Crash 1 is a lot more scatterbrained with its level placement, probably because they were reorganizing them up to ship date, which is what I think led to the levels not being as uniform as the Crash 2 ones. Sure, the 2 boulder levels, 2 river levels are obviously pairs, but then, especially near the end, you have a lot of potential one-offs, like Cortex Power, Generator Room, Toxic Waste. These levels contain assets unique to them. And to play devil's advocate, you could look at it from a broader perspective and say, well, Crash 1 only has 2 types of levels, nature and machine, while its sequel covers a lot more quote-unquote biomes. You're going to space, Antarctica, the sewers, Canada, I think. Crash 2 feels more globe-trotting, while Crash 1 tries to make a bit more of an effort to make logistical sense. Look at this official map I found online. You do go to the Cortex Vortex, and there's islands. It snows on all of them, they all must have the same sewer system. Pretty neat. So far, I've only been talking about visuals. Crash 2, there is objectively just more to do. You've got your boulder and animal riding levels, but also jet skiing, jet packing, monkey bars. These levels where you can dig through the ground, accurate to real-life bandicoots. Someone did their research. Crash 1 just can't compete. You're doing the same thing in almost every level, but those levels do feel more handcrafted. Less assembly line, like they have more blood and sweat in them. Now, this is all very subjective, but if you were given a random screenshot from both games, I think you'd have a better chance of identifying what level is pictured in the Crash 1 screenshot. And I'm not saying the actual level design of the Crash 2 levels are bad, just that they can blend together visually sometimes. And I think the warp rooms hurt more than they do help with that. Just look at the level select map of Crash 1. The sister levels weren't connected at the hip, but you had a general sense of where they were. The little dioramas on the map really helped with this. They gave you a good sense of where you're about to go and made that area feel tangible. Crash 2's like, here's Warp Room 4, the ugliest thing known to man. The entire Warp Room tower structure just feels like a glorified menu. And it might as well be. It's far too cramped to have any fun here. It takes so long to elevator between all the floors. And if you're looking for a specific level by name, good luck. They have upped the pun game when it comes to titling the levels. Snowbiz, the eel deal, behaving, bear it, bear down, unbearable, totally bear, and then piston it away, which is everybody's favorite. It's fun, it fits Crash, but it's another thing that just makes it hard to distinguish between sister levels. Maybe I need to go to the level Cold Hard Crash, and instinctively I'm like, oh yeah, go to the Snow Warp Room. Which would be wrong. Cold Hard Crash is in the 4th Journey to the Center of the Earth warp room. I mean, in this day and age, it is just a 5-second Google search away, but it doesn't help the fact that our brains don't like seeing something that should be categorizable and is not. And it really doesn't help that every level's entrance and exit generally look the same. The first screen of a level should wow you and feel distinct. Now, we aren't working with as many polygons as Ratchet and Clank on the PS2, but do something else. Like, look at Cortex Power in Crash 1. Dynamic camera, a discernible entrance, it really sticks out. Every time I beat a level in Crash 2, it feels like I'm deboarding a plane in these. At the end of the day, I commend the warp rooms for adding choice, but I think they end up hurting the game's identity pretty severely. Well, at least I can abuse this polar bear for extra lives. Aw, you're telling me this will only be done once per file?
I want more. And I know I shouldn't.
Now, just before we start getting into the weeds of gameplay, we do need to touch on the Naughty Dog staple, something this game really has, and that's polish. You want to know a good litmus test for if a game has a lot of polish or not? Lip syncing. Did the animators take the time to tune the lip syncing well? Now, the Spider-Man 2 movie tie-in game breaks this test.
A car just hit that girl. She needs to go to the hospital. The pain. Make it stop.
As well as a lot of localized games like the Souls games. Nonetheless, it's a good place to start, and the fact that it's done so well here just shows you how far ahead of the curve Naughty Dog was.
And it all comes together and brings an artificial character to life in a way that I don't think we've seen before in video games.
Good show, Crash.
I would have preferred more full body animation like we saw in the first cutscene, but impressive nonetheless.
We have 15 times as much storage for animation in the game, allowing almost every death to have its own unique animation that goes along with it.
Much like the first, you will be dying a lot in Crash 2, but instead of just getting the usual, there is now a variety of things that can happen to Crash. Some of them are so good and have been living in my brain rent-free for 20 plus years. I thought this shrink ray was going to pull a Sonic CD, but no, you can just control Crash for all of 2 seconds before he shrinks into nothingness. They range from being really funny to a little dark, like the drowning animation. I don't remember any of this bothering me as a kid. I think the silent protag and Crash being dumb factors kind of helped into, oh, it doesn't hurt him that much kind of thing. Overall, I think it's a huge positive. A lot of your deaths are still going to be bottomless pits, but this makes the others that much less frustrating. Please tell me I'm not the only one who sees Eustace Bag's face on all these scientist guys.
I'm getting me mallet.
Alright, let's talk about the good stuff. This is a new and improved Crash. I'm talking analog stick movement. 360 degrees. The crouch, the crawl, the slide. but mainly the slide. When it is paired with a jump, Crash does an extra long, extra high super jump that is so incredibly addicting. Slide jump, slide jump, slide jump. My footage is filled with this, and it looks so cool, it feels so good, and I accidentally kill myself with it all the time, but it's all worth it. It's mapped to circle for the babies and the grandmas, but if you're a real one, you'll be using R1. It is the fun button because it gives you so much freedom. In using it, you're saying, I'm not gonna wait for the cycles, I'm gonna use this extra little bit of height to make it on my own with my own skill. In Crash 1, 90% of the time you had to do exactly what the devs wanted you to do to progress. Here in Crash 2, that is now like 50%, and it's all thanks to the slide and jump. Crash's other new move is the less exciting belly flop. Press circle or R1 in the air and you do a downward slam. You can kill enemies with it, but its main application is going to be around these new boxes. Not those, these, the belly flop box. They take a belly flop to open, and the game is actually pretty clever with its use of these. They add to the small handful of puzzles that Crash 2 has, most which are asking which boxes do I break or belly flop first so I can get them all. Or like Totally Fly, where it's a race to flop all the boxes before your Firefly runs out. Now the game doesn't tell you about either one of these new abilities, it just assumes you'll hit buttons until you find them. Hello, that was me without a manual. But I think it's safe to say that most people found them and enjoyed the more versatile moveset by evidence that these would appear in a lot of future games. I noticed a few more quirks with the movement because I'm coming hot off Crash 1. Crash feels much lighter here, not as light as he feels in the remake, but there's definitely a lack of momentum. Let go of the stick or the pad, Crash now stops on a dime. Even when he's airborne, he's able to come to a complete stop. It was really off-putting at first, but I think I grew to prefer it because it allows you to be more accurate with those box bridges, which I'm fine with the normal ones, but the crates where you gotta hit them 10 times? At least they're sanctioned to bonus rounds, but what kind of sick person made those?
Crash 2, I said I wanted to really get involved in design, and so you know, I set my target. Can I do a third of it? I ended up doing like 90% of the levels, and Jason did the last 2.
Mr. PlayStation 5 himself. Cuff 'em, boys. But the single biggest change around philosophy from Crash 1 to Crash 2 is that the developers want you to win this time. It's still plenty hard, especially around the non-base game stuff, but Jason and Andy and Mark especially are rooting for you this time around. Aku Aku masks are deployed after you die a lot. Additional checkpoints will appear if you die a lot, or if you miss a normal checkpoint. The boulder or giant bear will get slower the more you die to it. Box progress is saved after getting checkpoints or completing bonus rounds. Passwords are gone, but you can now save at any time. This, I feel like, is enough for most people to say, yeah, I prefer Crash 2 over 1. Naughty Dog simply listened to what people didn't like about the first one and delivered. This made a casual playthrough much more approachable, while not losing all of that challenge. And as far as a completionist go for all the boxes playthrough goes, you'll be redoing sections of levels rather than entire levels themselves, saving many hours. Crash 2, I feel like I can cut loose more, that I can experiment. It's rare that I got that walking on eggshells feeling, a feeling that I had all the time while playing Crash 1. Watching all my footage back, I'm just like, man, I was having fun while playing this. So how has the level design changed in Crash 2? In large, it hasn't. You still got your hallways, both in 2D and 3D flavors, plenty of boxes with the new instant death nitro, enemies that die in one hit, and of course a small handful of gimmicky activities. But the broadest change, I think, is one that's not immediately apparent, and that's the wider paths in the 3D sections. The level margins have gotten bigger, allowing for a lot more movement options or obstacle gimmicks. Crash 1 felt like an assembly line of challenges with very little travel time between them, and like there was nothing else to stand on besides the critical path. Crash 1 stages feel like video game levels that were dressed up after the fact, while Crash 2 stages feel like they were already living environments that were carved into video game levels. The sewers feel like sewers. You're going from these wide, wet areas into these narrow pipes, and all the enemies and obstacles in the pipe adhere to that curve. The ruins levels, they got these leaning platforms going around in a circle, and you kind of gotta shimmy your way to stay on top of them. The ice levels have real low friction ice, 2D and 3D. You can only do so much in hallways, but I feel like they hit a really good balance in gameplay and design in a lot of these levels. Now, I do have a few gripes. We'll start with the small ones. The drop everything you're doing and kill the rats enemy pits. Now, there's only like 3 of them in the game, and I know if you're good, you can skip them, but you know, it's me playing. It's the second game. I understand that they were experimenting, but why in the world would you put this in Crash? These don't belong in platformers. They completely ruin the flow. It belongs in something like God of War, Devil May Cry. Kill all the things games. Speaking of violence, the enemy telegraphy, or how the enemy design / placement is used to communicate with the player on what to do. This goes for obstacles as well, like the sea mine. This was a problem in the first game, and it's better here. There aren't any designs that I'm like, oh my god, why doesn't a Goomba Stomp kill that like there was in the first game? But we haven't found a strong, universal visual indication yet. Sure, spikes and bright colors are used a lot, but for a game like this, we need like a bat signal, something that is unmistakable. And again, they didn't do a terrible job. 98% of the time, I was able to intuit what to do in the moment. But that 2% did feel unfair. Like this sewer rat with spikes on the side. I thought, oh, if I spin it in the face, it'll die.
Oh my god, I was wrong.
The scrubbing bubble enemies, I was a little apprehensive on if I should spin these or not because they're made of metal. And to complicate things, there are now enemies that can only be defeated with a slide. And for some enemies, like the lizards in the ruins levels, I think they really overcompensated in saying like, hey, you need to slide this guy, to the point where the enemy design just looks ridiculous. I really like the octopus squid robots at the end that transition back and forth between like flat and curled up. Super obvious what to do, doesn't look out of place, and they mesh well with the cycles in the level, making for some cool challenges. My other gripe is the jetpack, the big standout feature that's on the title screen, all the advertisements, and that's why I'm talking about it now. They promised us the world with this. As far as 90s extreme sport logic goes, if there's one thing that's cooler than snowboarding, skiing, skateboarding, it was using a jetpack. Now, I and a lot of others grew up to realize that jetpacks aren't as commonplace as we were led to believe, but that doesn't stop the idea from permeating. I mean, it's a freaking rocket on your back. Now, when translated into Crash 2 gameplay, the jetpack is just okay. You control it in 0 grav, and it sure feels like it. The spectacle's pretty cool. It's not overly fun, but it's not boring. Crash is able to fly forward, back, left, right, up, down. Plus, you can invert the controls in both the original and Insane. Total freedom. The issue is this is such a departure from what you've been doing that a lot of your gameplay is going to look like this. I just remember being really let down as a kid. These levels come off as such wet farts. The 0 grav makes everything feel very loose. It's hard to be precise here. I'm sure to someone practiced, this can be a lot of fun, but the game just throws this at you in the last warp room. And unlike the polar bear and the jetboard, the slow, floaty nature of the jetpack just doesn't feel very Crash.
Listen up. We are not without enemies. Some of them you may even recognize.
In between each warp room, Crash will need to fight a boss to progress. Now, we're down from the 6 bosses we had in Crash 1 to 5, but if I had to pick, I would certainly pick the Crash 2 set. And if you want to be pedantic, you could count the Komodo Bros as 2. Character designs are just as strong, if not stronger. The arenas are much more dramatic and exaggerated, feeling more like movie sets. And while the fights range from easy to mildly difficult, they all demand the player's full attention. You can't just sit on Papu Papu's chair until heat death anymore. Having said that, I don't think any of them are like out of this world fantastic. They're still just a bit too simple. A good boss fight should bring you to a heightened state of alert, like you have a little bit of a fire under your ass. With the exception of maybe one, I don't think any of these do that, but let's touch base with each one, shall we? First, you have the returning Ripper Roo, who became a learned scholar, just like his Crash 1 epilogue said that he would. It's cute, the fight is easier, less frustrating. He still has his fascination with explosives. Komodo Mo and Komodo Joe make up the Komodo brothers. Very creative animal selection. I love the Indonesian palace. I just want to sit down and have a meal here. Extremely underrated Crash villains, but I am a sucker for a duo. Tiny Tiger. This is their strongest design besides Crash and Cortex. Crash is the internal foil to Cortex, while Tiny is the external one. Big, dumb, and you can sense there's some naivety in the way that he jumps on these platforms. Absolutely love Tiny. And his fight is my favorite of the bunch because you have to plan and think. I mean, not very much, you just gotta lead him to drop down these falling platforms. But unlike the other bosses, it's much less about pure execution, which I have criticized other parts of these games for not doing, so at the risk of sounding like a hypocrite, I'll say that this fight asks for the perfect amount of thinking and planning ahead.
Use the platform to deliver the crystals to Engine.
Everybody hangs up on me like a second too early. At the end of Warp Room 4, Cortex will ask Crash to give his 20 collected crystals to his assistant, Engine. This is another case of something that is framed like it's gonna be a choice. But no, Engine just attacks us, unprovoked.
Need the 20 crystals you collected me.
And they're still 5 crystals short. Why kill Crash now? And the fight itself sure is different than what we've seen so far. Crash's spin has been replaced with this Wumpa Fruit throwing attack. The objective is to throw Wumpas at the vulnerable parts when the game says that you can. Now this one's gonna take you a while, as Engine's got a whole strand of Chuck E. Cheese ticket stubs for health. Please tell me I'm not the only one who sees that. Relative to the other bosses, Engine has a pretty wide variety of attacks with his missiles, lasers, and the 4x3 aspect ratio really doesn't do you any favors here. Insane players rejoice. Mechanically, it's a fine fight. It's a spin on traditional Crash gameplay where you ironically lose your spin, and the difficulty spike fits narratively. I mean, this is Cortex's second-hand man. The number one thing I don't like, as petty as it is the fact that Crash has no throwing animation when he throws the Wumpa Fruit. There's an unlimited supply and they just spawn out of his head. 15 minutes ago, I was talking about how much polish there is and there's no cut corners. This feels so out of place. It always bugged me as a kid, but thinking about it now, it probably wasn't worth the hassle to animate. I mean, it's a pretty complicated animation for 1997. You have the torso moving separately from the legs. You could have had Crash always face forward, but then I feel like that messes up the jumping and dodging gameplay. Thankfully, the Insane Trilogy did me right. They added the animation, and it looks fine. So yeah, put a point on the board for Insane. Better Engine fight.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Don't worry, he survives. After the Engine fight, the cat is kind of out of the bag, with Crash being tricked by Cortex.
What is your problem, Bandicoot?
But it looks like we still gotta collect the last 5 crystals because it's a video game, so let me do that real quick.
Yes!
Cortex isn't going to use the crystals to contain the planet's energy. He's going to harness the force and use it to power the Super Cortex vortex he has built on his space station.
Oh, now I understand the name.
One blast of the ray will cover the entire world, turning everyone into Cortex's mindless slaves.
Coco finally comes through. I don't know how she found all this out, but it seems to have spurred Crash on to chase Cortex through an asteroid field. Yeah, that's the boss. It's done on jetpack. Spin him 3 times before he reaches the end of this path, and you win. Congratulations, you've beaten Crash Bandicoot 2. Now, the logistics of this fight really confuse me. Does Cortex have the 25 crystals? Is that why we're chasing him? To get him back? Well, probably not. I mean, that would mean we willingly gave them to him after Coco's warning. Maybe we're taking the offensive angle and just going out for blood. Well, the real answer is they probably just wanted to shove in another jetpack level. I think this would have worked loads better if there would have been a traditional fight right in front of it. Picture this, a 3-minute fight against Cortex in a Gundam mech. We destroy it, he grabs his jetpack, we grab ours, and away we go. Just the jetpack chase feels a little hollow.
No! You haven't seen the last of me, Crash Bandicoot!
Later.
Crash, what do you suppose happened to Cortex? And what about the Cortex vortex? It's still up there.
Yeah, Coco, what about it? This is the bad ending, we gotta get all the gems to get the good ending. And just before we start talking about how to get that, I want to acknowledge how much more cliffhangy this bad ending is compared to the first ones. Coco saying one line to Crash on the beach feels more of like a teaser than an actual ending. And by evidence of how Crash 3 starts, maybe Naughty Dog doesn't consider this to be an ending at all. What it's actually doing is effectively pushing the player to go for all the gems this time around. But should you? Well, let's talk about it. So our checklist for 100%, 25 crystals, defeat the 5 bosses, 5 colored gems, and 37 clear gems. Now if you remember that there is 1 crystal per level, and know how numbers work, 37's bigger than 25. It's also made clear by the indentations above the portals, but yes, levels can contain multiple gems. Some levels are super straightforward. First visit, you go in, get all the boxes, collect the gem at the end, you're done. Oh, and feel free to die as many times as you want. Some are gonna need a colored gem path unlocked, which, hey, you know, we remember those from Crash 1. Others will be hiding in the game's shiny new death routes. These are alternate, usually much harder paths that only appear if you haven't died yet in that level. And occasionally you'll finish a level without having seen any of this stuff and swear you've gotten every box but still be missing like 60. Oh, and bonus rounds? Yeah, all those boxes are now required to get the clear gem. Which, let's start with those first. So the word bonus was much more synonymous around video games 20 plus years ago. Usually a fun distraction where you can rack up points or lives. Like, I usually think of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Now, if you're just going for crystals, Crash 2 is like that, but they don't feel like bonuses. They just feel like more of the same food. If I'm not going for the gem and I'm not desperate for lives, which I like never am in this game, I skip them. And when I am going for the gem, I'm never excited to see these. The hover pads to and from are slow enough to break the flow. They are almost always doing something clever in the 2D perspective, which admittedly this game has a lot less of, but it still feels like it breaks the pace of the normal level I was just in. And with how many there are and how consistent design is between them, they just start looking bland. Like, I know Crash 1, they literally all look the same, but those were a screen. Here in Crash 2, the camera's zoomed out and they're just objectively bigger and more complex. Personally, if I could retroactively go back and change it, I would sanction these off. Take the top 2 from each warp room, combine them, and put it in its own separate portal. Job done. Colored gems. Let's talk about the changes made to colored gems. Well, if you're coming from Crash 1, you'll know that something's different because in that first snow level you see the red one like high above where you can't get it. Don't waste your time. Collecting these is no longer tied to breaking boxes. Instead, you have to think outside of the box. And by that, I mean try shit you would never think of. It feels like looking for glitches in the Matrix. I'll give you some examples. Blue gem in Turtle Woods. Beat the level without breaking any boxes. Green gem in the Eel Deal. Walk through this wall. Purple gem in Behaving. Jump up this staircase of nitro crates. Now, if you're playing the North American PS1 version, there is nothing in the game, as far as I'm aware, that hints towards or tells you about this stuff. The Aku Aku hints are back in the Japan version, and they'll just spell out how to get a lot of these. And the Insane Trilogy has hints in the loading screens that aren't super overt. Good stuff. Now, I'll give the yellow gem somewhat of a pass because it puts a big timer on screen. Every other one is purposefully going against the established rules of Crash. Break boxes. Levels don't overlap. Walls are walls. Nitro equals death. In defense of these choices, some of them are having you play Crash in a different way that you never would have that's still really fun. I kind of wish there would have been more of the don't break any boxes objectives. Mapping out how to do it in Turtle Woods was pretty cool. Same with the time limit objective. Speedrunning a Crash level is just inherently a good time. People who actually speedrun these games are probably cringing. It's just, I doubt too many non-Japanese kids were able to find all these in 1997. It kind of feels like a strategy guide selling tactic, but I digress. Did I spend the countless hours experimenting trying to find these? Absolutely not. I immediately Googled how to get all of them. Once I had the information that my Crash game was now Dark Souls or Super Mario World, yeah, some of these were pretty fun to get. Unfortunately, the routes that the colored gems unlock aren't as visually exciting as the last games. Ooh, I wonder if this blue gem will take me to a waterfall. Oh, just more of the same level assets. The spaced out colored gem path is such a letdown. It requires every single one, so you're like, oh, it's gotta be sweet. But it's just more the same. That never gets old, though. So let's move on to something that I've alluded to a little bit. The secret warp room. The 6th warp room that might actually look familiar if you played another game. This can only be accessed via secret entrances found in other levels. The portals begin locked and unlock when their corresponding secret entrance is found. And depending how far you are, you may notice that you've been to most of these levels. They lead to alternate sections of past levels that contain boxes that count towards the normal gym to that level. Are you confused? I sure was. Okay, quick example. I wanted to get the normal box gym for Road to Ruin. Even though I felt like I was being pretty cognizant of my box collecting, I finished the level and oh no, I'm missing 40 boxes. Turns out there's an alternate path in the level that contains 36 of the 40 boxes that is inaccessible from the level's normal portal, let alone that warp room. What you have to do is go to the level Diggin' It in the next warp room, find this specific piranha plant and belly flop it, which in turn unlocks the secret Road to Ruin warp gate, leading you to the path with the missing boxes. And you still need to collect the original 53, which includes the ones in the bonus round. Now, the hidden paths themselves, I'm not against. Some of them are stupid, some I felt like were pretty clever. But why are we hiding standard gyms behind seemingly unrelated levels? It's like keeping your gym locker key in your neighbor's mailbox. And this is another case of zero direction or hints, unless you're playing Japanese PS1 or Insane. I can just see somebody in 1997 pulling their hair out, doing Air Crash again and again, looking for those 20 boxes, when in actuality, the answer exists in a completely different warp room. It feels like these could have just been colored gym paths. Seeing that absent colored gym, it tells you, oh, I need to do work in another level and come back. The only indication that a level has a secret entrance is missing a shit ton of boxes. At the absolute least, the levels should have correlated. What does Bear Down have to do with Air Crash? Now, oddly enough, there are 2 unique levels in the secret warp room. Totally Bear, which is doing the bear riding at night with like 0 visibility, and Totally Fly, a more difficult Firefly level. They don't have crystals, only gems for getting all their boxes, but in my opinion, this is how all of the secret warp room levels should have been. I mean, it sounds like it was a resources thing, perhaps somebody should have been helping Mark, but it's just crazy to me that these don't even make up majority of the portals. Oh yeah, and you can't just access the secret warp room with the hover stone. You have to utilize one of the secret entrances in a normal level. So if you want to replay Totally Fly for the hell of it, you can't just go to it. You have to play a little bit of another level. So stupid. If you're playing Insane Trilogy, you can just go to it as long as you've gotten at least one level there. Chalk up another point. Just one more thing, I want to thank Couch Allmark for his Reddit comment 9 years ago for laying all this out. I would have had to buy that strategy guide off eBay if it wasn't for you. Okay, let's go to our last gym collecting method, death routes. At face value, I love these. It's like a modulated way to have Crash 1's Don't Die challenge. It's nowhere near as frustrating, and you get a substantial reward. Like I said earlier, you have to make it to them without dying, but if you actually die on the death path, you are allowed to retry. Right on. The issue is the inconsistency in how they overlap with the normal gym. 4 out of the 6 contain boxes that count towards the normal gym's box count. So what does that mean? You guessed it, backtracking. Now, none of these are as bad as Cortex Power in Crash 1, that was absolutely terrible. But for the love of God, nobody wants to do this in a Crash game. They did it a time or two in the first game, you know, slap the hands, do better next time. In the sequel, there should be exactly 0 instances of required times I need to do this to 100% the game. And it is particularly bad in my 2 worst levels of the game. Piston It Away, and you knew it was coming, Cold Hard Crash. Piston It Away sucks because, like others, it has boxes on the death route, but it doesn't loop back in the normal level like a lot of the others. And this death route is also special because it's constructed in such a way to where you cannot backtrack through it. That leaves us with one choice. Get all the boxes on the level's normal path, don't exit, do a U-turn at the end, make your way back to the death route without dying, where you can complete it from there. Hilariously, if you die in the death route, you will respawn at your last checkpoint box, which was probably at the end of the normal path, requiring you to get whatever boxes you still need there and then backtracking to the death route again. This happened to me and I was so desensitized from playing the level for 20 minutes, I just finished the level like normal, having to redo everything. And I know I already kind of harped on it, but these 2D levels, they look good from a screenshot, but There's no landmarks. It all looks the same. It all blends. Which I can't help but point out the irony in how inconsistent the requirements for collecting all these gems are. Backtrack here, don't die here, walk on these nitro crates, don't break any boxes. Oh, you thought all death routes just dropped you back where you started? Nope. No! So let's get into Cold Hard Crash, the most infamous level from Crash 2. The problem here is pretty simple. The Death Route's exit skips part of the normal path that has boxes on it. What's a Bangaroo to do? Well, you just gotta backtrack the Death Route. Unfortunately, this Death Route has probably the hardest screen in all of Crash, excluding Crash 4. It's nitro boxes on ice. Yeah, just mean. So yeah, you could tiptoe your way through this, get your ruler out, place it on your CRT, or you can just get the triple Aku Aku and blow through it all. Even with that, it's a long stage, it's a long death route, and a long bonus round, which has a hidden box off screen that I certainly missed the first time and had to redo the whole thing.
Tears for souvenirs are all you left me.
Here was my missing box in case you find yourself in the same position. This kind of design just feels so antithetical to the principle we talked about in Crash 1. Knowing your objective at all times, not having to think too much, it being a no-brainer experience.
We did that deliberately in order to create a really approachable, no-brainer experience.
And, you know, it's fine to have some thinking in the 100% experience, but all I'm asking for is a little bit more direction and consistency. Let's definitely put a pin in that and have it on hand for when we look at Crash 3.
You acquired all of the gems! Incredible!
After collecting your final gem, Brio will give you a call, and to meet up with them, you'll have to go all the way up the floating rock elevator. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your 100% reward.
We are ready, Crash. Would you like to do the honors?
And credits, that's it. I find it a bit disappointing. There's no new music, Coco doesn't talk, you don't get to see Cortex or Engine. It's better than the bad ending, but that barely qualifies as an ending. And what about the initial Master Crystal? I guess it's just floating out in space now. And where's Brio gonna go? Again, I'm probably expecting too much, but I would have at least liked it to match the first game and have that little epilogue summary deal for each character. It's all a bit anticlimactic. If you do want to refight Cortex after getting 100%, you can. Just hold triangle as you go up the floating rock elevator. Just a better way to cap things off in my opinion. But yeah, that's it. We're done. Beaten Crash 2 100%. Just to wrap things up, I want to reiterate that I really like this game, despite the bitching and general negativity there's been so far in the video. It's no wonder that Crash 2 is most people's favorite. It has maybe the best core gameplay experience of the trilogy. Sure, I have problems with the design and 100% completion objectives. For the design, I think Crash 2 just lacks that spice that the other two have. As a first-timer doing the 100% route for Crash 2, it was tough. Like, I was frustrated at points. I got hung up on some things, so hey, if you're a veteran who's done it a ton, I can see how it could be a lot of fun. Like, next time I play Crash 2 and I know, oh, that's how you get the red gem, that's how you get the yellow gem, I think it's going to be a ton of fun. Let's close the book on this one. Again, it's a fantastic game, a fantastic entry in the Crash series, and really a fantastic sequel, so let's call it, everybody. Oh my god, I made it all this way without having talked about the Crash dance. Should I just do it for you for recompense? Well, if you don't want to see it, just click off the video now. You've got the gist of it, and I've gotten enough ad revenue from you already anyway. I apologize for what you're about to see. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. That is a wrap on Crash 2. Next time we will be doing Crash 3, so I'm sticking to the schedule that I talked about in Crash 1. Other than that, I hope everybody's having a wonderful January. Hope everybody had a good holiday season. Just starting to get real cold out here in the Midwestern United States, so yeah, I've just been staying inside with family and pets and been really cool. But yeah, other than that, I just, would love to hear any kind of feedback, positive or negative. Like, comment, hit all those buttons. Every tiny bit of interaction helps. If you want to reach out to me, I read the comments. If you want to get in touch with me personally, my Discord server is probably the best way. And stay safe, tip your wait staff, hit all the buttons. I'll see you in my next one, Crash Bandicoot 3.